Welcome to Wonderland, the podcast where I go down the rabbit hole to research things you may be curious about. My name is Amii, and I'll be your guide on this trip to Wonderland. Hi there, my Wonderlings, and welcome back for another trip down the rabbit hole. This week, I've invited Jason Blair, tattoo artist and owner of Stick and Poke Tattoos, to give us some insight into the world of tattooing. But before we get to that, first I found myself wondering about the history of tattoos.
I wonder.
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 Before we get into the history of tattooing, let's talk about the word tattoo itself. How do you think tattooing got its name?
I have no idea. I don't even know where it came from.
I'm not sure how tattoo got its name, but I feel like it was probably based on some old foreign language.
I don't know. I assume it's a derivative of some original word.
Guessing that it was potentially a word from a different language was a good guess. Multiple sources cite that the word tattoo originated from a Samoan or perhaps Tahitian word, tatau, T-A-T-A-U, which means to mark. It has been suggested that tatau is a form of onomatopoeia where tat was the tapping sound of the tattoo instrument into the skin, and ow was the cry of pain from the person being tattooed. It's believed that the word tatau was recorded as T-A-T-T-A-W when being used to describe Captain James Cook's first voyage in 1769. And if you don't know who Captain James Cook is, then go give Welcome to Wonderland episode 27 a listen. It's a fun episode all about pirates. And we talk about Captain Cook while down that rabbit hole. As language evolves, tatau eventually became tattoo to English speakers, and that's how we still refer to it today. So if the word for tattooing has appeared in print as long ago as 1769, it stands to reason that people have been being tattooed for at least 255 years. But how long do you think people have been tattooing their bodies?
I'm not sure on how many years, but I know back in ancient times, like the people like the Samoans and stuff, in their heritage and culture have been tattooing forever.
6,000 years.
Oh, thousands of years. They've found mummies with tattoos. Very ancient mummies.
The answer to this is definitely more than 255 years, and could be as many as the 6,000 years that Barrett suggested. But until the 1990s, archaeologists believed that the earliest tattooing was by ancient Egyptian women who would tattoo other women for fertility and to safeguard pregnancies. This was due in large part to evidence in ancient Egyptian art and mummies. In 1991, however, that view changed when two German tourists in the Alps near the Austrian-Italian border came across what they feared was a deceased mountaineer. After several groups attempted to free the remains from the ice, eventually tissue samples from the corpse would reveal that the body was nearly 5,000 years old and was likely the body of a coppersmith who lived between 3359 and 3105 BC.
It's been hailed as one of the century's most important archaeological finds, the body of a Bronze Age mountaineer, which scientists believe could be 4,000 years old. The corpse was discovered last week, frozen in the ice of a glacier on the Austro-Italian border. Since then, scientists have been supervising its removal. As well as the body, archaeologists have uncovered the remnants of clothing, special mountaineering equipment, and firelighting tools. Scientists have had to work quickly to preserve the remains and prevent them from deteriorating. The body has now been taken from its glacial grave to Innsbruck University, where the cause of death will be determined. Apart from injuries on the back and head, the corpse is remarkably well preserved and even has its front teeth.
And surprisingly, this mummified corpse, who was named Otzi, had 61 tattoos adorning his flesh. His tattoos consisted mostly of various lines, and the speculation based on the bone wear and placement was that they were pain relief treatments. So ancient Egyptian women tattooed for fertility and health during pregnancy, and Otzi was likely tattooed as a form of pain management. What are some of the traditional reasons people get tattoos?
Tribal markings, family crests.
Something to represent an event or a loved one.
I think traditionally people got tattoos for like status symbols, stuff like that, and people get in remembrance of people they'll get tattoos.
Historically, there's evidence of tattooing throughout many cultures, but their meanings and significance vary between the cultures. In North America, the Inuit have a long history of tattooing. The transition from girl to woman was marked upon a woman's face after her first menstrual cycle to represent beauty, strength, and maturity. Other indigenous people are documented as to having used tattoos to help alleviate toothaches by tattooing the path a nerve followed from their jaw to their tooth. Osage men were tattooed after accomplishing major feats in battle and were a physical indication of their elevated status among the tribe. In ancient China, tattoos were considered to be barbaric, not a symbol of pride. The Chinese character for prisoner was often tattooed on the faces of convicted criminals as late as the Qing dynasty. In a classic novel, Water Margin, a character's sentence for his crimes includes having the nature of his crimes tattooed upon his face. Similarly, slaves in China were also sometimes marked to show ownership. In Japan, however, tattooing for spiritual and decorative purposes dates back to at least the Paleolithic period. By the 17th century, however, tattoos were used as a mark for criminals and for manual workers and prostitutes to communicate their status. In 1868, the government of Meiji, Japan, banned tattooing altogether. Not all Asian countries found tattooing to be barbaric or limited to criminals, however. In the Philippines, for example, tattoos were a symbol of tribal identity as well as social or wealth status. Sometimes they were believed to have magical abilities. And I don't think we can talk about tattooing's history without talking about Samoa, since the very word we use to describe the art is a Samoan word. Samoans have been tattooing by hand for over 2,000 years. Samoan tattoos include the pe'a for males and the malu for females, each boasting unique designs and cultural significance. The pe'a is the traditional male tattoo that covers the body from the waist to the knees and is a rite of passage for Samoan men, symbolizing their transition into adulthood. For women, the malu typically covers the thighs and is a symbol of protection and service to the community. The designs include waves, tiki, and animals, which tell stories and convey the person's identity and heritage. If tattooing has been around for thousands of years, have you ever wondered how they were applied? What tools were historically used for tattooing? What tools are used now?
Maybe just a really sharp piece of rock and some organic dye.
What tools are used now?
Some sort of a pen of sorts with ink.
And needles?
Yeah, sure. Needles.
I think some kind of stick or bone that was sharpened into a point may have been used with maybe plants or soot or something as the dye for the tattoos back in the day. And they use tattoo machines now. Not sure what that consists of, but I do know it's a machine and not a gun.
I mean, it's not like a hammer and a chisel, but it's almost kind of like that with a pointy end that they tap with another tool to drive the ink in.
What tools are used now?
Tattoo needle guns.
The reason that some cultures have found the art of tattoo to be barbaric is because the means of tattooing is violent and painful. Scientific testing on Otzi's tattoos indicate that they were created by making small puncture wounds and incisions in the skin and rubbing pigment made of fireplace ash or soot into the broken skin. The women of ancient Egypt reportedly used bone or metal or copper needles and pigments made from henna, charcoal, and crushed insects. The Samoans used a set of finely carved bone or tusk tools called atonga to tap a pigment called amu into the skin. Amu was created by smoking nuts on the fire with a coconut shell above it to collect the soot. The soot was then mixed with sugar water to create a paste and then was sealed and cured for at least a year before it was used. There are some Samoan tattoo artists, or tufuga, who still practice this method of tattooing by hand. And while homemade tattoos are still a thing that some people do today with ink and a needle, we'll actually hear some more about that in just a minute when we talk to Jason. The tools for modern tattooing are a far cry from their predecessors. Nowadays, if you go for a tattoo, you'll go to a shop that uses a tattoo machine, which uses electromagnetic coils to move an armature bar with barred needle groupings up and down. The needles are used to open the skin so the ink can flow in. This machine is a successor of the electric pen that Thomas Edison invented in 1876 that was intended to be used for duplication. In 1891, however, Samuel O'Reilly, a tattoo artist in New York, realized that Edison's electric pen could be modified and used to introduce ink into the skin. O'Reilly would eventually patent a tube and needle system to provide an ink reservoir for this modified pen. Since O'Reilly's version, the tattoo machine has evolved to be lighter, nimbler, and safer. They've also evolved to be more precise for whatever the need is, whether just line work or shading, and everything in between. The modern tattoo machines allow artists to tattoo people with extreme precision and a variety of tattoo styles. And as far as styles go, there are so many. What are some typical tattoo styles?
Oh, there's a bunch. American traditional, neo-traditional, new school, geometric, fine line, black and gray, portraits. There's a bunch.
Portrait, realism, neo-traditional, American traditional, geometric, tribal, Japanese.
There are literally dozens upon dozens of styles, with new styles being created all the time. But there are some that are well known, and we'll talk briefly about some of those. American traditional, or old school tattoo, uses bold lines and a limited color palette. Think your stereotypical sailor style tattoos.
I Popeye the Sailor Man. I Popeye the Sailor Man.
Neo-traditional tattoo is essentially a more modern version of American traditional. These more modern takes on the American traditional tattoo use different line weights, more subtle gradients, additional colors, and more intricate details. New school is more than just modern, its almost cartoony look uses more varied and vibrant colors and exaggerated features. Black and gray is very much what it sounds like, where no color is used. Subject matter varies, but the only coloring is black and shades of gray. Realism is another one that is exactly what it sounds like. The tattoo looks just like whatever the subject is in real life. Japanese tattoos traditionally were done without machines using a hand-carved technique, but now most people just get the large, bright cultural symbols tattooed with a machine. Tribal tattoos initially were used to mark someone as a part of a specific family or clan, but modern designs just pull the design and shapes from those historic tattoos for inspiration. Script or lettering is just that, words written out into the skin. There are so many more, from watercolor to surrealism to portraits, from 3D to biomechanical and graffiti, and so on. There are so many styles of design, and different artists may specialize in only a specific type of design. Now that we've covered some of the historical context behind tattooing, and there's a lot more that we could discuss, check out my website, www.wtwlpod.com, for some additional information. Let's talk to Jason from Stick and Poke Tattoos in Clemson, South Carolina, for more insight into the modern world of tattooing.
Hi there, my Wonderlings. Welcome back for another episode of Welcome to Wonderland. If you follow me or Welcome to Wonderland on social, you know that last weekend I got a new tattoo, which made me wonder more about the world of tattooing. I thought it would be great to get some insight into tattooing from someone who does it for a living. Today, I'm excited to introduce Jason Blair, tattoo artist and owner of Stick and Poke Tattoos in Clemson, South Carolina. Hey, Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm excited you're here, but tell my listeners who you are, what you do, all that good stuff.
All right, my name's Jason Blair. Like she said, I'm the owner of Stick and Poke Tattoos. Me and my wife own it. We've owned it for going on 3 years now. I've been tattooing on and off since I was 13 years old. Been a professional tattoo artist now for 8 years. I do a lot of tap outs. Tap outs are usually 5 hours or 8 hours. I do a lot of cover-up tattoos. Pretty much anything that comes in the door that you can think of, I tattoo, minus I usually send portraits and stuff like that down the road to somebody that does that, a specialty artist.
So 13, that feels really young. Were you using a tattoo gun at 13? Or you were old school with like a safety pin or...
Safety pin, yeah. Little needle and thread, that's what we use. That's where the name comes from, Stick and Poke Tattoos. So. Oh,
okay. So tell me, kind of take it back to when you were 13 then. What was the very first thing that you were like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do, what did you do? What was that? What did you tattoo when you were 13?
Well, I tattooed a cross. I don't think I really did it. It wasn't I think it was more of a rebellion thing.
Did you do the cross on yourself or did you do it on someone else?
On me.
Okay. Did it hurt?
Yeah. No, it didn't hurt. I kind of like it.
Okay, so
hurt. I don't know. I kind of like it.
So from 13, when you were doing it with a needle and thread, where to from there?
Let's see. DJJ, where I did some more needle and thread tattoos. Then I learned how to make one with a Walkman like a little Sony Walkman radio. You can take the little motor out and use a little Bic pen, and there's all kind of little ways you can make homemade machines and stuff. I learned that from one of my uncles on my mother's side, and from there I was like, okay.
Okay, so when did you actually use your first tattoo gun? Like legitimately, whatever they use for tattooing.
A legitimate machine. I was probably about 18.
Okay.
So
So when you were 13, and then when you were at DJJ, and then 18 with the actual tattoo gun, did you know that that's what you wanted to do, was tattoos?
no, I didn't. I mean, really, it was just a way to make money at the time. It wasn't really something I wasn't really thinking about making a career out of it.
So when did that shift for you?
Probably about 8 years ago, when I was in college and realized that because of my past, I couldn't really get a job anywhere. So I was like, all right, let's shift focus back to tattooing. There's nobody can stop me from working then. There's nobody can stop me from anything.
So what does it take to be a tattoo artist? Kind of take us from the beginning to, from the moment where you're like, I think I might want to be a tattoo artist. What does a person have to do?
If you want to be really successful in tattooing, you can be the greatest artist in the world, man, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. It's got a lot to do with your personality, the way you deal with people. You got to pretty much kind of dedicate your life to it. I mean, I work around 100 hours every week, give or take. I mean, it takes a lot of hours to own a tattoo shop. So if you want to get, it takes a lot of dedication, man. Like, I'm not going to say it's just art. It takes a lot more than just art. It takes, like I said, it takes personality. You got to know how to deal with people. You got to know how to deal with the public to be able to advertise your product. And then you got to put out a good product. Just because you got to be consistent, man. That's the best thing. Consistency.
Okay. So let's say you've got the right personality for tattooing. Like, I guess you have to be a people person to some degree. I assume it's probably best if you have some artistic inclination. The first step then is an apprenticeship, right? You have Callie at your shop who's an apprentice. So talk to us about what the apprenticeship is like.
Yeah. So apprenticeship now, they're not that rough like they used to be. People are really sensitive, so you can't be as tough as you used to be. But anyway, an apprenticeship at the shop, pretty much, you're bringing her in to teach her the proper sterilization. That's the number one thing in tattooing, is being sterile, keeping your clean. You teach her proper sterilization, then you teach her techniques. It takes a lot of hours. It takes 1,000 hours. By the time she's done doing an apprenticeship, she should be able to completely, fully set up. She should know the proper sterilization techniques, the proper disposal techniques after you're done tattooing. She should know how to run the shop basically from start to finish. Pretty much what I do, minus she's an employee.
So 1,000 hours feels like a lot. I feel like there are lots of jobs that don't require that much time. Is that a strict guideline, or?
Yeah, it's a strict guideline. It's a DHEC guideline. It's it used to be 2,000 hours, and they changed it to 1,000 hours. So the 1,000 hours, I'm not going to say that it might be 1,000 might be a lot in today's society, because you don't have okay, so from 8 years ago when I started, you had an autoclave. Like, I used metal tubes, I used coil machines, I used all kind of stuff that took a lot of extra steps and a lot of extra precautions to properly clean. Now it doesn't like, the machines come, we use pins, so they come with like grips that you can put on, and it slides up over it. It's already, like, you close it off at the end. It's sterile. When you take it off, you wipe the machine down. It's a lot less process that you have to do. So yeah, 1,000 hours may be a little excessive, but at the same time, 1,000 hours gives them enough time that they can fully understand how a shop works. And in 1,000 hours, you'll know if you can be a tattoo artist or not.
I believe that. So I just did the math over here, and Barrett, check behind me because I'm bad at math. But 1,000 hours, if an apprentice did it 40 hours a week, so it was their kind of full-time job hours, I'm looking at 25 weeks. Is that right? Like, that's basically
right.
half a year, 6 months that someone is training before they can even really tattoo a real life person.
Yep. Well, so, all right. So the thing with an apprentice, All right, they can tattoo during 1,000 hours. You have to be 21 years old in order to be able to tattoo on a person. If you're not 21, you can still be an apprentice under 21, but you can only tattoo fake skin and learn proper sterilization and stuff of a shop, the techniques, how to run a shop, stuff like that. You can't actually tattoo a physical person. You can tattoo. They make little things of fake skin. They make it all the way from like $1 a sheet to $40 a sheet. So I mean, it can get really realistic, like real skin. So I mean, like there's things that an apprentice can do that's under 21 to learn the technique, and then when they turn 21, they can come straight into tattooing. If they're over 21, they can come in as an apprentice, and after so many hours, when the artist feels comfortable, the artist can supervise them and they can tattoo.
Okay, so supervised tattoos, like you
Yeah.
couldn't be like, all right, you got this for the day, I'm going out.
Yeah,
But
no,
you would have to
can't
sit
leave
in there
You
and
can't leave them at the shop. No. Like they can be in the room by themselves as long as I'm coming in and I'm checking on them and making sure everything's good. But I couldn't leave them at the shop. No, I have to be present.
okay, so you've got to be 21 years old to tattoo.
Yeah.
Does it require a license?
The shop itself has to be licensed. The shop has to have a business license, and it has to be inspected by DHEC and be permitted to be a tattoo shop through them. The artists themselves, they have to have the 1,000 hours as an apprentice in South Carolina, and you have to have bloodborne pathogens for infection control, for tattooing and body piercing, and you have to be CPR and first aid certified.
And how often do you have to recertify in those things? Retake the bloodborne pathogen, retake the CPR?
CPR is every 2 years, and then the bloodborne pathogen is every year. In
Okay,
South
do you have to-
Carolina, it's every year. There's other
Do you have to
states
go someplace
like
for it? Is it like an online thing, or you have to go someplace
Yeah.
for it, or? Okay,
You can go. I mean, there's places you can go. Like, I don't know if Greenville Tech still offers. Greenville Tech used to offer the course, and you can actually go in and do the bloodborne pathogens. If you're working in a tattoo shop, you deal with bloodbornes every single day. So once you get the certification, like you're literally dealing with it. It's pretty much kind of like a refresher course every year, is what it is. In Florida, when I tattooed down there, it's a little different. You go through this 4-hour course online. They come out, they inspect your stuff, and then your bloodborne pathogen is good for life. You don't ever have to redo it. You don't ever have to, because they know like you're dealing with it every single day. So
right. Okay, so you've got your bloodborne pathogen, you've got your CPR, you've got your. Do tattoo artists have to do this, or just a shop owner?
everybody in the shop
Everybody.
has to have it.
Okay.
Yep.
1,000 hours, and then you are ready to tattoo. So, what do you have to tattoo? I assume you need the gun. It's
Yeah,
a
you
special
need a
gun,
machine.
right?
Definitely not a gun. This is where it gets fun for me because as a professional artist, we don't call them guns. That's usually for the people that work outside of the shops, and we call them. I'm not real disrespectful to them because I came from there, but they're called scratchers. So it's a machine. Yeah, you have to have your machine. You have to have the license, like I said, be in a licensed shop. Machine, ink, and depending on what the shop supplies, you're going to have all your own needles, your gloves, stuff like that. Usually shops provide, we provide like the bibs and stuff for your setup. We provide A&D, razors, saran wrap, like
Paper towels, green soap.
yeah, green soap.
All your cleaning products.
Yeah, all the cleaning products and stuff for the shop. Mainly the artist just has to bring, so at my shop, I prefer the artist to have their own chair, their own toolbox. Usually if an artist has their own chair and their own toolbox, they've been doing it for a while. You kind of know like, all right, they're not new to the game. So chair, toolbox, if you worked at my shop, your own machine, needles. I supply paper towels, A&D. You got to buy your own ink. And that's pretty much it because everything else, like the shop provides pretty much everything that you need. Ink caps, all that.
Are there different brands on the ink? Like, do different artists use different brands, or is there just kind of like a standard brand that everybody uses?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different brands. You have like Eternals, Skin Candy. You have the Industry Ink, World Famous. I like World Famous. World Famous is really good. I like Dynamic for black ink. It's hard to beat Dynamic when it comes to the blacks. And then I use their heavy white. It's really kick ass. Back in the day, Starbright was a really good brand. We used to use it a lot because the white was phenomenal. Um, you have like Mom's Millennial. I think it's Millennium. I can't. Yeah, Mom's something like that. We don't use it. I don't use it.
So how do you decide? Like, is it trial and error? You're like, oh, I got this new ink, and then you tattoo someone. You're like, oh, I don't really love that.
You do a lot of research, man. I mean, you research the ink and see because I mean sometimes you got to make sure one that there's nothing in it that people are going to be allergic to. Sometimes like
Now everything's vegan.
yeah, now everything's vegan, so it's not like it used to be. Used to, you have to watch a lot of the reds. You'd have to watch some of the black ink that is like really dark black inks because like the stuff that they mix it with or the stuff that they use to make it, people are really like you being fair skinned, it would like some of the black inks and red inks that we used to use, it would really tear your skin up. Whereas now it's more they're more hyperallergenic. They're not as it's not as hard. The inks are way better too. Like the consistency of the inks, the way they flow, it's a lot better.
Okay, so this sounds pretty expensive to get into. So I know that tattoo artists. I mean, you started obviously with I assume just like ink pen ink and a needle. But like to legitimately do it, to be a good artist, this sounds expensive. You're giving up 6 months, give or take, to be an apprentice, which is unpaid. And then you're buying all of these tools to get started, a fledgling artist. What would they kind of be looking at, ballpark,
An
and
apprentice
cost?
An apprentice
21 is paid.
over 21 is I mean they are paid.
Okay.
If you were just trying let's say you were 20 years old and you had somebody that would be willing to give you an apprenticeship, you know, you follow all the rules, you're not going to tattoo anyone, you're not bringing them money. I mean, obviously you're not making any money for the shop. Um, somewhere around to have a decent start, I would say somewhere around $2,500 to $3,000 just to start. The
Okay.
booth
And
that you came in at my shop, I probably I've got at least $8,000 worth of machines in that one booth. The chair that's $10,000 with the chair. Not counting the audio, like I probably have, I'm going to say $25,000 or better in equipment in my booth that I use daily.
Including
holy
inks and
cow.
Yeah. And
So,
that's probably not including the inks.
geez Louise. Are
Yeah, I
those
probably have
expensive
like
too?
$3,000 worth of ink.
Man. Okay, so when someone goes for a tattoo and they're like, you know, it's going to be $300, $400, whatever it is, really, that is maybe a little cheap considering how much it costs to get into it.
And I
So,
mean, not just that. So you have that aspect of it on supply. So, I mean, I'm obviously established. I probably spend somewhere around $500 to $600 on my supplies a month, not
okay.
shop supplies. On Jason's inks that he uses, needles that he has to replace, stuff like that. Then, I mean, yeah. So you figure, yeah, $300 is pretty cheap. So I do, like I said, I do the tap outs. I do 500. I do 5 hours, and I do 8 hours. I do 300 and $500. The average go around my area for an artist is somewhere around $125 to $150 an hour. So you're
Okay.
automatically getting discounted coming there, and then people don't take into consideration like we have to pay power, water, and rent.
rent.
The rent alone for my building is $2,700 a month, not counting power and water.
Right.
So
So that leads me into one of my questions is what are some of the difficulties in owning a shop? Like being a shop owner versus just being an artist in someone else's shop.
owning a shop is a lot more difficult than just being an artist. When you're an artist, you just come in, you work. A lot of times, whoever owns a shop feeds you work. You know, they give you clients that come in, they walk-ins and stuff like that. Because all that, like most of the time, a lot of times, not all. So a lot of people don't get offended. Nobody over this. A lot of shop owners don't. They're not like me. They're not tattooing all day. They're not doing what I'm doing all day long. Um, I'm right there with the people. Like, I mean, if I'm asking you to do it, I'm going to be right there with you. But a lot of them don't. They're not doing that. So it's more of a money thing. It's when you're an artist, you don't have the stress of all the overheads. You don't have to worry about the people that are working for you if they're going to have a job the next day or the bill's going to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When you own the shop, you have to take into consideration however many employees you have working for you. Um, those lives depend on you every day to have a place to work. Um, that's the difference in me and a lot of people that own a tattoo shop. That's why I'm there every day, all day. I don't rely on my artist ever, never going to be able to pay my bills. If I can't pay on myself, I probably don't need to own the stuff that I have. So they're beneficial for me. Yes, they help me achieve things that I'm trying to achieve. But owning the shop is a lot more stressful because you have them to worry about. You've got the overhead to worry about, the supplies. You have to worry about if something happens in the shop, like you have to be the one to handle it. There's a lot of things that you have to worry about.
Do you take on liability for your tattoo artist? So, like, if you've got a tattoo artist who breaks protocol, and doesn't follow the procedures they're supposed to follow, or if they really hurt somebody, or really botch a tattoo, like, does that come back on the artist or on the shop owner?
So most of the time, that's going to come back on the artist on the artist. You sign a waiver when you come in the shop, obviously, kind of getting rid of responsibility towards the shop. It's on the artist because the artist is individually employed at the shop. So now, as far as me being the shop owner, if you botch a tattoo or you mess a tattoo up, like I'm the responsible person that will fix it. I'll honor that, and I will make sure that the person has a great tattoo.
Well, and the good thing is you do cover-ups and things like that, so you're used to fixing tattoos.
Yeah, I'm used to fixing them all the time.
So talk to me about, obviously you're in the world of tattoos, and I assume that you have to pretty regularly tattoo somebody who's getting their first tattoo.
Yes.
So for someone who's getting their first tattoo, what are some things that they need to think about, one, before they even come into the door, like before they even come in to talk to you, but then as they prepare to come in, and what they should expect as someone who's a novice?
First and foremost, don't listen to your friends. Ask the tattoo artist, ask the person that's going to be tattooing you, because every artist, I don't care who you are, every artist has a certain way that they do things. They have a certain procedure they do for aftercare, or they have a certain thing they want you to do before you come in. There are certain rules to that. Like, the very first thing I'm going to tell you when you set an appointment with me, especially because I do the tap outs. So the very first thing I'm going to do is tell you, hey, be sure you eat a good meal before you come. Bring you a couple snacks with you. Um, be sure the night before that you're not out drinking and partying all night, because it will cause, obviously your blood's not going to clot properly. So it's going to cause you to bleed more. A lot of artists believe that that's because the ink will push out. That's not necessarily the case. It's more or less, it's a sterile thing. Thinner blood is going to bleed more than a normal
Sure.
person. So that, and plus, if you're under the influence of alcohol or a drug or something, your vision is impaired. Psychologically, you may not make the right decision, and that would be on me, on that
Right.
case.
Make sure
So
you were 18 years old.
yes, and making sure you're 18. You have to be 18 years old in South Carolina. No, you cannot have your parents' signature. It does not work. It's not one of those states. 18 is the minimum for a tattoo. So 18, be sure you eat, bring a couple little snacks. Next thing, guys, this is for the novice people. Bring one person with you to be your friend, your support, your shoulder to lean on, your person to talk to. Don't bring a whole group of people. One, a lot of artists are not comfortable. It doesn't bother me because I tattoo a lot of people all the time, and I have people in and out of my booth. Like, I'm used to it. But I do hear a lot of complaints from a lot of artists that's worked at my shop, as far as the people coming in the booth. Like, they're like, damn, I wish, they would only bring one person, not mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, cousin, niece, nephew. Like, you got 10.
Distracting.
Yeah, it's distractive, one, for the artist. And then two, you can't focus on what the artist is telling you because you got too much going on. So you can't really pay attention to the process. That's the next thing.
So would you say that, and I know it varies from person to person, for most novice people, for the people who are getting their tattoo for the first time, Should they expect it to hurt?
Depending on where you get it, yeah. Me, like, yeah, there's places on the body that hurt more than others. Um, it's more of a mental thing, I think. I think people come in and they psych themselves up because they're friends or whoever, and they're like, "Hey, it hurt. Oh, don't, no, God, it's like, God, seriously, it's a tattoo, it's a needle, it's gonna have some sort of pain. You're gonna have some kind of reaction, but it's never as bad as they think it's gonna be." Especially with me tattooing, because I already know they come in, they're psyched up, and it's like, oh yeah, I'll mess with them for a little while, and then I'll sit there until I know, like it might take 30 minutes before I'll start the tattoo because I'll just sit there and bullshit.
Until they're
Because I've been
relaxed.
doing this for so long, I can kind of fill it out. So, yeah, I mean,
So do you use any kind of like numbing cream or anything to, topical anesthesia or?
so we do have numbing cream at the shop. There's different kinds of numbing cream that are offered. There's like, I think there's a company called Painless Tattoo. There's TKTX. There's all kind of numbing creams. We do use them here and there sometimes. Mainly, I don't like to use it on a first tattoo. I like somebody to come in and get the experience and understand what their body's going to go through. And then after that, I don't really care. They can use numbing cream whenever after that. I don't want you to get the numbing cream, and then when the numbing cream wears off, you're in like complete shock from the pain because you've never experienced it, something like that.
Right.
That would be the main thing with something with numbing cream. Now back to say that question one more time so I can answer that better.
I forgot.
You forgot.
Well, no, so where it came from is like, people talk about how tattoos hurt, and I get
Yes.
that I've only chosen very fleshy places to have them. But like the one that I just had done, the one that you just did for me, is on my thigh, which I've got a pretty fluffy thigh, but like it didn't hurt at all. There was no
Right.
pain. So I was like, maybe he numbed it and I didn't know.
No,
Like,
no, I
maybe
didn't
that's
numb
a
it.
standard.
No, so I think a lot of the pain I think a lot of the pain comes from the experience of the tattoo. Like when I say experience, like life experiences. Um, a lot of when I say older women, me and you are the same age. If you guys know how old I am, if y'all know me, then this is my cousin. So like for someone our age, it's a little different because we've been through things in our life. We already know, like, hey, all right, yep, this is nothing. And you sit back, you don't really think about it. Um, it's like therapy for someone. I'm gonna say 30 and up. Most of the people that come in that are 30 and up, it's therapy. Most of the younger people that come in, it's more,
It's a status quo.
yeah, it's more of like a status quo type thing. It's like, oh well, I've got a tattoo, and you know, Jim's got a sleeve, and I'm gonna go get a sleeve, and that type of thing. And the pain thing from them is more of they've listened to their brother got a tattoo from Jim Bob down the street out the trailer out the back door, and they use spit rags and stuff to wipe it off, and he had an infection or some crazy crap. And I
Ew.
mean, you get what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
it's a mental thing, man. If you come to the shop, it's got a lot to do with the artist too, though, because you have artists that really don't care about the clients, and when I say they care more about the money, so they're not trying to make it a pleasant experience. They're not trying to make it comfortable for you. They're just trying to get you in, get you out, get the money, and get the hell on through. Now, that's a lot of what I see in the industry, and that's a lot of pretty much why I don't have a lot of people in my shop. Not I have some people that I wish would come back to my shop, but as far as like for the most part, the people that have left my shop, I'm glad they're gone.
Okay.
So
So now we've kind of talked about what it takes to be a tattoo artist, and we talked about kind of the cost associated with it. We've talked about what it's like to get a tattoo, and so you mentioned older people, even though we're only in our 40s, Jason. But does it get harder to tattoo on older skin? Because like my skin is not as nice as it used to be. Like,
yes and no. Sometimes I mean I've tattooed. Okay, so I tattooed Uncle Kenny. Uncle Kenny's what 74. It's his first tattoo. I tattooed him. It was flawless. Like his skin was great. Like, it couldn't have got no better. I mean, even him being that old, a lot of times older skin,
Uncle
like you
Kenny,
hit.
he's calling you old.
Yeah, he knows. I love him though. A lot of times when you hit older skin like that, like it cuts. It's like you got to cut the machine down. It's a technique to it because you'll tear the skin like you're talking about.
Okay.
But then there's a lot of times that the older person will actually surprise you because their skin will actually be better than our skin. I don't know. I mean, they work out like Kenny. I mean, perfect example. I touched him with a needle and I was like, dang, man, this is going to be great. Like, yeah. So, and I have tattooed some older people that exactly what I said. Like, it takes a little more work. Um, in instances where the skin doesn't. All right, so what you're saying, because the skin's not pliable and stuff as it was when we were younger. There are instances where I can't put as much detail into something. I have to be like, okay, hey guys, we're gonna have to change it up a little bit to this because if we go this route, it's just gonna blob, like it's not gonna look proper. But it's very rare. It's very, very rare. I did a butterfly on a lady in Daytona. She was 78 years old. It's in one of the books at the shop. It was flawless. And I mean, her skin, she had older people's skin. It's all about selection of
Yeah.
where they put it to. That has a lot to do with it.
So who's the oldest person you think you've probably tattooed? The 78-year-old?
No, I tattooed a doctor. He's retired. He is 80. So he got his first tattoo when he was 70 years old. He came to me to get tattooed when he was 80, and he said if he's around when he's 90, he'll be back.
What
So
does an 80-year-old person get tattooed on them? Come on, I got to
he
know.
got an apple tattooed on him. An apple,
Like,
a little bitty apple on his arm. It
why?
was something to do with his.
Oh, doctor, an
I
apple a
thought
day keeps the doctor away.
something like that. Yep.
Okay. That's funny.
So
And then I guess you probably have a lot of 18-year-olds then. So since that's the youngest you can get it.
yep, we have a lot of 18-year-olds. A lot of college kids come in.
Do you do a lot of
For the
Clemson
most
paws?
part, no, I don't do a lot of tiger paws. Believe it or not,
Huh.
I don't do none of that. They usually come in, man. They want the little dainty spine tattoos, like the little bitty flower bouquets and stuff like that. Most of the time, it's a group of girls that come in. They don't usually. If the girls come in by themselves, they're usually coming to get tattooed by me. They're coming to get a tap out, or they've already been tattooed by me at some point. Um, if they're 18 and they're just coming in the shop, it's usually like three or four of them, and they're coming to get the little small dainty specials that we do because we do daily specials. We do $20 and up tattoos every single day. I'm not against it. I'm never going to be too good for that. So
How long do those take? So, because I saw your little.
5 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. It takes me longer to set up and let the stencil dry most of the time than it does to do those little $20 tattoos.
Do you always have to use a stencil or can you freehand?
No, I'll do a lot of freehanding. Most of the time I put the stencil on for the people so that I can make them comfortable, so that they have an idea of what they're getting. They can send pictures because everybody wants to send pictures through Snapchat, or they want to do this and they want to do that. Some of the older guys that's been around me a while, I do a lot of freehand stuff on them, a lot of filler work. Anything that's my shade work, anytime you ever come get a tattoo from me, if you brought me something off of Pinterest and told me you wanted it identical, I would still change something about that tattoo to make it to where it was not identical. I never ever used the shade so if you brought me like what you brought me, I
Hmm.
would take nothing but line work from that. You know what I mean? Um, and the tattoo I was doing before you came, like that big tattoo that I did, I took nothing but line work from whatever the design was and used that as a stencil. All the shade work comes from me. I mean, that's
Right.
because a lot
Um,
of people ask me if I draw or anything like that. Like, man, I tattoo 8 to 10 hours a day. Now I don't do a whole lot of drawing. I'm tattooing on the skin all the time.
did you
So
used to draw? Like, are you
yeah,
artistically inclined? Like, did you love
very
art growing
artistically
up?
inclined. When I was growing up, I
Okay.
used to draw a lot. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of
Yeah.
time to draw. Under my circumstances, I had a lot of time to draw. So
So, and if you're comfortable talking about it, I am going to kind of come back to that.
yeah,
We talked in the shop about how tattooing, and you referenced it at the beginning of this conversation, but tattooing is one of the only fields really where you can get in pretty easily, even with a history.
yep.
So, do you find that it's not uncommon to have or for people with a, I don't even know what the right word is.
With a record?
With record,
Yeah.
yes. People with a
Yeah.
record, is tattooing a common field for them to go into? Do you run into that a lot?
So I would say 10 years ago, yeah, that was definitely now it's a little more modernized now. Like you still run into it. You run into it a lot. But like, let's just say you go to a shop and they have 5 artists in there. Out of those 5, guaranteed one of them out of those 5 has been in trouble. But so 8 years ago when I started, everybody in the shop that I worked in had been in prison at one point in time. Like, I mean, that's just what it was. I mean, minus one, Kevin hadn't. But everybody else that had been in there had been in some kind of trouble, some form. I mean, it's more of a rebel way of life. That's what it started out as. Like tattooing was more of like a more of a rebellious type thing. Like the first shop I started at was more of a biker shop, so it was a lot different. Like you got people coming in there that are like, I mean, big time bikers, like stuff you see on TV, like in Hollywood.
So you've got like Hell's Angels up in there.
Oh yeah, like, but I mean, like, it wouldn't be like a local person, like it would be a higher up person, and I wouldn't know who they were, like, not just them. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of bike clubs that come into that particular shop. That was just a safe haven. MCs. Let me back that up because yeah, MCs. But like with them, like it was just different. The atmosphere was different. So like it's more so tattooing is becoming so acceptable now that it's like you taking the kids straight out of, and I'm not against it. I mean, because you got some people that come straight out of college and straight into tattooing or straight out of, whatever, and into tattooing, and they're phenomenal. I mean, I'm not taking nothing from anybody. However you get there is how you get there. It's just a different way of lifestyle. Like my path was a lot harder to get to where I'm at versus it's just handed as silver spoon kind of, you know what I mean? So like the atmosphere at my shop versus where I started from is totally different. Because you come to my shop, it's professional, it's clean, it's like, hey, da 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 da. You got a safe place to go to. And I have all kind of people that come in there too. Like, I mean, I've tattoo everything from MCs to chief of polices, like, so.
And to sorority girls and everything else,
and sorority girls and football players, basketball players, baseball players, girls softball.
Yeah, guys.
I tattooed a soccer player.
You need to follow Stick and Poke Tattoos on their social media. They do have a lot of, especially if you're a Clemson fan, go Gamecocks. But they've got a lot of folks who come in who had their names that even I recognize. Like they've got signatures on the wall. It's very neat. So you clearly have built a shop atmosphere because you're not the only shop in town, right?
No. There's
but they like coming to you.
Right down the road, Roach and Company. You have one that just opened up the road. There's 4 shops in Clemson plus
3 shops in Clemson, 1 in Central.
Well, yeah, 3 in Clemson, 1 in Central, 2 in Central, because you have Cherry Bomb down at the Walmart. They moved down towards Walmart. Cherry Bomb's very reputable. They've been around for a long time. Ben Roach has been around for a long time with Roach and Company. He's a very good artist.
Are you guys competitive? Different tattoo shops? So 3 or 4 tattoo shops in a generally smallish area. Like, is there a competition, or you each do your own thing and have respect for each other?
Yeah, I mean, right there where we're at, like me and Ben Roach have been there the longest. The other 2 shops just kind of opened. It's not. I'm not nothing against them because I mean I know the one guy, but it's like it's no competition with them. Like it's not. I have
plenty of college kids.
Yeah, there's so many college kids, and then like my reputation, I've been tattooing for so long around that area, like that. Yeah, for me, it's no competition. For Ben Roach, there's no no, because he has clientele that is set for. Hell, he's booked for like a year, 2 years. Like he has clientele for days. Yeah. Now, I mean, there is a lot of that. There's a lot of hatred, a lot of stuff that goes on in the tattoo industry. I mean, no matter what, you're always going to have somebody that doesn't like you, doesn't like something that you've done, or you've offended them because you didn't like what they did and you fired them. You know what I mean? Like you have stuff like that goes on. But as far as like real competition right there in Clemson, no, everybody just kind of they kind of do their own thing. Like Ben, he's a specialty artist. He does all kind of specialty work. Like he does portraits, all kind of stuff. Like he's really good. I'm a street artist. I do everything that comes in the door. Like I don't specifically specialize in traditional, or I don't specifically specialize in black and gray. If I specialized in anything, it would probably be cover ups. Cover ups is probably that would be my strongest point ever on a tattoo.
Okay.
I'm really, I don't know, God gifted me. I can see something that other people can't see in that. I mean,
So, and now you're kind of talking about styles. We already talked about the apprenticeship, and you learn from someone who's already an experienced tattooer. But there are so many different styles of tattooing that are somewhat standardized. So you've got the traditional or the Japanese or whatever. Are there like courses that people take to be able to learn how to do those, or like do you have to know how to do all of them, or how does that work?
I think some of the people are probably like naturally gifted, and that's so like maybe at 3 years old or 4 years old, they seen a piece like that and they were like, oh man, and they were drawn to that kind of work. And I mean, you have some people that are natural talent that just come off the top of their head with that stuff. Then you have, yeah, obviously you could go to school and study Japanese traditional work. I mean, stuff like that. You could take classes at college or something and learn.
Okay.
Like just regular tattooing, something like that. No, you're not going to be able to learn like at a college. But if you want to learn traditional art, you could go to school for something like that. Japanese, like you're saying, Japanese, that's a whole style. I actually have some of behind me actually on a picture. So yeah, that's a complete style you would study because it's different.
Eh,
Most people that do that specifically, like when you see the really, really kick-ass pieces that are online that people do, and it's like a whole leg, that's all
mhm.
they do. That's the type of
So
work
that's
they
what I was
do.
going to ask. Are there certain things that I know you said you called yourself a street artist? You basically will take
Mm.
anything that comes in. But are
Yep.
there shops that are like, we only do portraits? Like, don't come to me if you
Yes.
want a little butterfly tattoo on your wrist. Come to me if you want a picture of your dog or your late grandma on your shoulder.
Yep. There's plenty
So
of
the same thing
there's
with like,
places that are like that.
are there some that literally like do people know that before they go in, or is it just kind of that's just when you get there they're like, we don't really do that, I'm going to need you to go someplace else, or they're like, hey, no, I do American traditional or whatever that style is called, and that's all I do, and if you want that, then come to me, otherwise make your appointment somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, so you have artists that literally say it just like you just said it right there at the end. I mean, that I do American traditional. You want American traditional, come to me. Or I do black and gray. You have artists that specialize in black and gray. Artists that specialize in like neo traditional. Um, and then
Most people know that before they go to a
yeah,
shop.
and most people do research. Not everybody, because I
You
have
should.
people. You always should research your artist. I have a 5-star rating. I've been doing this for a while. You should research your artist. Because yeah, okay, just most people do research, but the ones that don't, they do go in the shop. And a lot of times you have artists, everybody's not nice when you come in the shop. I'm the people that I deal with, I'm super nice. I deal with a lot of classes of people. Like I'm not gonna be an asshole because you come in and says something crazy. What do
Sure.
you think on that, Dana?
Y'all say hi to Dana, by the way. She is Jason's wife.
Hi.
We can't see her, but I can hear her.
Yeah, she's in the background. She has a mic back there.
Um, we at our shop we have so many different classes of people that come in that you have to treat everybody the same. So even if somebody came in and wanted to get a portrait done, and Jason doesn't specialize in human portraits, we would give them the option to go to Ben Roach down the road or Todd and Anderson, who that's their greatest specialty.
Yeah.
We're never just going to shun somebody away because we had somebody that called the other day and wanted a portrait above her boyfriend's,
Oh,
and every
Yeah.
shop had turned her
did
away.
he also want this, or she was
I'm not
just
sure.
I don't know if he even had an inkling that that was happening.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
not sure.
But every shop she had called had turned her away, and I told her that in all honesty, she might want to go to Atlanta for that because they will have artists out there who are
Your cousin ain't doing it.
yeah. They
So
have artists out there that actually specialize
That's one of
in.
those she already knew. Tell her hell no, because I'm not doing it.
They do have artists in Atlanta that specialize in genitalia area tattoos.
Yeah, that's out my league right there.
So are there
That's one of
things
the
that
only
you just
tattoos that he will not do is when you're getting into the gen.
Mm.
And
Are there
we
any
will
that you're like that looks like I wouldn't do a good job on it? Like I have faith and ability in my skills, but what you're asking, and this is on your body forever, I really think you need to go to somebody else with it.
Mandalas. If you come to me for a mandala, go somewhere else, please. I love y'all, but I hate those things. Like, go to somebody that does those all
Maybe
day
the
long.
side.
Listen, guys, mandalas are the hardest thing in the world for me to do because I do so many big, huge tattoos that are like shade work based, and they have a lot of lines. I can pull perfect lines. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm more of a,
People
I
think
can
that
do it
they're
and
easy
make a
and
mistake
intricate.
and cover with shade work versus you do something wrong on that mandala, you're hit.
If
It's
the
done.
client
It's ruined.
moves, sneezes, anything can just ruin that piece.
So is that something where you're just straight up with them? You're like, hey, I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you bringing your business to me, but I'm going to be honest. This is not something that I think you're going to get better results someplace else.
Yeah, usually when they come in, they ask about the mandalas. So honestly, most of the time I can talk them into changing it to another design or changing it enough to where I'm comfortable doing that style of mandala. Like,
Okay.
um, so a lot of people come in, they might come in with a big intricate, let's just say it's a circle around, mandala. So that thing has to be perfect in order for that circle to be like it's supposed to be.
Right.
So I might talk them into getting half of that and covering the other half with flowers, like breaking it up.
Okay. I
So
get that.
something like that. Like I'll do my best to accommodate it if I can, but there are times like sometimes the mandalas that they bring in, there's no way I'm not gonna attempt to do
And
it.
most of the time, they only really like one piece of what's inside of the mandala, so it's easier to come up with something else that they actually really, really want.
Yeah, she's right on that. Like most of the time, it'll be a big piece, and they'll only want like this little section of the mandala. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Are there people who come in who are like, I know I want a tattoo, but I have no idea what I want. And you have to like help them make
Every
that
day.
decision for something that's going to be on their body for the rest of their life?
Every single day.
How? How do you do that with somebody?
Man,
Find out what they like.
the easiest thing I do, man, the first thing I ask, I'm like, okay, well, show me a couple things that you like. Like, what do you like? You like flowers? Do you like skull? What are some things that you like? And then I'll go from there. Okay, so you like that. And then I'll get on Pinterest and I'll pull some stuff. Okay, how do you like something like this? Oh yeah, we love that. I want to change this. Cool. Now we're getting somewhere. It's a process. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes it takes an hour or two.
So is that
A
built
lot of
into the
people know what they
pricing?
want. They just don't know how to express it. Huh?
Is that built into the pricing, like this consultation period? Like when you book, so I don't know how long the time
It's
periods
free.
are. Okay.
The consultation portion of it's free. So most of the time, all right, for me, they don't even get to me unless they have an appointment. Like it's very rare. If you come in the shop, yeah, you can see me, you can talk to me. But if you call the shop, you're not going to get to me like unless Dana's in the bathroom. You might get lucky once a month and I answer the phone. Like you're not gonna because she knows that I'm gonna get on the phone and somebody's gonna ask me 50,000 questions like that, and I'm not gonna do it until they come in the shop for that exact reason. Because when they come in and I have you face to face, like I can guide you a little bit better. If you give me any point of direction, I can take it from there.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start kind of getting us to the end of this because I know you've got to go handle your appointment. I do want to know though, what is your favorite thing that you've ever tattooed on anybody? Like you did it and you're like, God, that looks good. Like it's your showcase piece.
So it's actually on my wife. I just
Okay.
did it a couple weeks ago. It's not completely finished. It is a cover up that I did. I did a tattoo on her, I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that. Um, Long story short, it actually is the tattoo that got me in a tattoo shop. But the very first thing that the guy said to me when he seen the tattoo, he's like, "It's fucking backwards," and I was like, "Okay." So that was that was where I learned the
You
difference in a
tattooed
professional
her
artist.
backwards?
The picture was backwards. So anytime that you do a face or something like, say, a skull on a person, if it is a single skull, it has to be facing forward, like so. It will be facing the front of your body. Otherwise, it's reversed. It's backwards. The image is
Sure.
backwards.
Okay.
It's an amateur thing. Like, it's a lot of people now don't really care about it, but the guy that I learned from, oh yeah, man, he ain't play no games. R.I.P. Steve, man, sucks you gone, but yeah, he uh he ain't play no games with stuff like that. So anyway, I covered it up a couple weeks ago. I'm not completely finished with it. I still have about, I'm gonna say, about 2 more hours to completely finish it. But yeah, that's by far, I'm gonna say, one of my favorite pieces that I've ever done.
Yeah, and I got to see that, so it does look good. And those purples look fantastic in her tattoo. So what is your least favorite thing to tattoo besides Mandela's? But like that you actually do tattoo on a regular basis. You're like, oh my God, another one of these.
The new typical white girl tattoo.
So what I just got.
No, no. The damn under boob tattoos.
Oh,
I don't mind doing, I mean, like, but guys, stop coming in and getting like two little vines up under your boobs. I'm a 43-year-old man. That's not attractive. Get some flowers. Get something crazy. Like, if you're gonna do it, like, go all out. Come on, man.
so
I
those are the
hate
new
those
tramp
things.
stamps from the late
Hmm.
90s and early 2000s.
So that's the new tramp stamp. Between that and then they do little spine tattoos down the center of the spine. I don't mind those too much. Most of the time, the people freak themselves out over those. They're like, "Oh God, it's gonna hurt." They're not that bad. Like, but they psych themselves out. So those right there, and then yeah, the little, I don't even know what they call. What are they, olive branch things that they want to put? Yeah, the olive branch things under the one. Yeah, no, it's not. I hate them.
It's a new fad.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is all I've got. Why don't you take a minute to give a shout out to Stick and Poke Tattoos? Go ahead and give us the spiel. I know you know that all by heart.
All right, all right. Man, you already know what time it is, man. Jason up at Stick and Poke Tattoos in Clemson, South Carolina, 1376 Tiger Boulevard, Suite 210. Phone number is 864-306-4700. You can call or come by anytime, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Somebody will be there, and if they're not, they will message you back on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. So be sure you hit us up, man. We got custom T-shirts. We got tattoos. Get y'all asses on up there. Y'all know I do tap outs, 5 hours and 8 hours, $300 and $500. Peace.
Oh, fantastic. And for anybody who is Welcome to Wonderland following, but does not yet follow Stick and Poke Tattoos, what are the names? Who do they follow?
Okay, so on Facebook, it's Stick in Poke, the letter N, Poke Tattoos, Clemson. Same thing on Instagram, same thing on TikTok. Um, when you're on TikTok, there is a shop page and my personal page will say the same thing. The difference, mine has my name on it, which is Jason Blair. Same thing for my Facebook. It's Jason Blair. It's got the shop in the background, the Mustang, and if you click on that, you're going to find the shop on my page. My Instagram is Jason Stick and Poke Clemson, and then my YouTube is Jason Stick and Poke. I think it's Jason Stick and Poke Tattoos. Yeah,
Stick and Poke Clemson.
maybe. I don't know. If you look up Jason Stick and Poke, it'll pull them up though.
And guys, on his YouTube, that's more than just tattoos, right? That's you getting
Yeah,
into the
it's
car
got
stuff
cars,
and all of that. So
motorcycles.
if you guys are
Stick and
into all
Poke
of that
Clemson.
kind of stuff, definitely check that out from Jason. So I appreciate you being here today. My Wonderlings, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode.
Tattooing, as Jason said, has become much more common. People these days get tattoos for all kinds of reasons.
I have 2 tattoos.
How old were you when you got the first one?
31.
And what are the 2
31.
tattoos?
I have a tattoo under my armpit on the inside of my arm, and I have one on my finger.
But what are they?
One of them is a fist holding a clover and a rosary, and the one on my finger is a cross.
And
Actually,
do they
it's a
hold it?
cross. It's a cross on a mound.
Do they hold any significance to you?
They did at one time.
Do you have any tattoos?
Yes, I have 3.
How old were you when you got your first one?
18.
What are they?
One is a Zelda piece that I clipped together. The other 2 were flash pieces picked off the wall.
Do they hold any significance?
The first 2 don't. No, it's just picking things off the wall.
Does the Zelda one?
Yeah, it's my favorite game franchise, and I put the design together.
I have 4 tattoos. The first one I got about 16 years ago, which is on my right foot. It's 2 ladybugs, a bigger one and a smaller one, and it represented me and my son. Then I got an ambigram on my right wrist, which is both of the kids' names. If you look at it one way, it's one kid's name. If you look at it the other way, it's the other kid's name. Then I got a hummingbird on my left foot in memory of my Nana. And I have a Hey Hey the Stupid Chicken on my left forearm that is for my daughter because we call her Stupid Chicken.
What about you? Do you have any tattoos? Share your tattoos with me on social media. And if you're looking to get a new tattoo or your first tattoo and you're near the upstate South Carolina, go see Jason at Stick and Poke Tattoo in Clemson, South Carolina. And until next time, be safe, be kind, and stay curious. The Welcome to Wonderland podcast is copyrighted by Amii Bland and is part of Big Media. This podcast was recorded in part at the Big Media Recording Studio and in part in the Welcome to Wonderland recording closet, otherwise known as Just My Closet. Any thoughts or opinions expressed as part of this production are those of the hostess unless otherwise indicated. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Please follow, like, and share this podcast. Find us on Facebook at Welcome to Wonderland the Podcast and on X, the app formerly known as Twitter, at Wonderland_pod. Check out behind-the-scenes moments and other videos on TikTok at Wonderland Pod. And finally, check out pictures, additional information, and go further down the rabbit hole on our website at www.wtwlpod.com. To submit corrections, additional information, or requests for episodes, please email the hostess at welcometowonderlandthepod@gmail.com.
The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media and copyright 2024, all rights reserved.